I was weak, but now I am strong, a survivor of sexual abuse. Thanks to Project SHHH, I can extinguish the silence of sexual abuse and embrace solidarity and freedom with other members of the Malayali community.
It's my prayer that unveiling vulnerability brings healing and compassion to the people around me. People are struggling with things that have hindered them in all areas of their life. We must embrace vulnerability just as a society to uplift and encourage each other, just like Christ asks us to.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for another video. Today we're working on an extra special project, something that I have been looking forward to working on for the past month, and now I'm sitting down and finally getting to talk to the founder of Project SHHH7214, Jenny Zachariah.
Hi guys.
So today we're going to be talking about what the project is, what it's done already in the community, and where they're going to take it. They've already done a lot, and Jenny is really passionate about working through this project, but also with survivors of abuse and getting a really positive, encouraging message of hope out there to everyone. So, Jen, why don't you start off by telling us what is Project SHHH7214?
Okay, so I know it sounds kind of strange to come out and say shh, but the whole idea, the SHHH actually stands for She or He Has Hope, and it's actually contradicting because typically when you hear shh, it's like, okay, silence, you know, and that's where the idea came about, because sexual abuse, especially like in the Indian community, it's very not talked about, swept under the rug. And so thinking of those abbreviations is pretty awesome too. That's the whole purpose, to give hope. And 7214 comes out of a Bible verse, Psalm 72:14. And it's just a verse that's talking about how the Lord saves those who are oppressed. And so with that verse, that's just been kind of like the encouragement behind Project SHHH and just our drive, really. It's actually me and my cousin, Ashley Abraham, that have been working on this project for a couple of years. And it's just basically a platform to give survivors of sexual abuse a place to share their story.
Right.
After being told for so many years, you know, don't talk about this by, you know, friends, family member, people in church. And so, yeah.
So what made you want to start this project? What was the inspiration behind it?
So back in 2010, there was a regional conference for our church, and during the dedication time, one brave woman came up and just pretty much shared her story of how she was a survivor of sexual abuse. And from that point, it was just very a heavy atmosphere. A lot of us were just feeling, you know, that just heartache and just really feeling the brokenness at that time. And it was almost like a domino effect of other women coming out and just saying, like, I've been through this too. And we broke out into small groups and just talked about it and just tried to encourage each other during that time. And for me, I was just very taken back by hearing that story, because I was 16 at that time, and I was just like, whoa, I've grown up in the church and the indie community, and I've never heard of this happening in our community. So I just still remember that moment. It was just a huge burden that I was feeling, and I was just asking God at that moment. I was just like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, why does it hurt this much?
Right.
I haven't gone through that pain, but why does it feel like so real to me? And I just remember the Lord just saying, like, you know, do something about it, you know, fight for that justice. And a couple of years after that, in 2014, after praying and just talking to some friends and people in church, I was I thought of the idea of, hey, I can start an anonymous website, and through that, like, nobody has to put their name out there. It can just be a place where people can share their story, and just kind of being that voice to the voiceless, you know. And ever since then, it's just been great to see people coming up to me or coming up to Ashley and just being like, whoa, this actually happens in our community. And at the same time, the survivors that post are just like, whoa, I thought I was the only one, you know. So there's the aspect of like, we're bringing awareness, but at the same time, making a safe place for people to share their story, and a place where they don't have to feel like they're alone.
You briefly touched on this in your last response, but I want you to tell me, why is Project SHHH aimed primarily at the South Asian community?
So the reason is because it's not talked about enough, and just kind of like thinking about our community, talking about sexual abuse is such a stigma. It's not ever heard about. Just to think of the fact that I was 16 years old and I didn't even know that sexual abuse even existed in our community. It was kind of just this larger scope, like in any other community but ours.
Right.
And the reason why we wanted to start this website was because this could be like, honestly, the first place that a South Asian girl or guy can feel safe and open to share their story, and actually providing that resource, and making it a place where they don't have to feel alone, and being able to bring healing in that way, which is so cool. And even just, this is probably like the beginning of many steps to take, right, for our community.
Right.
Of bringing awareness, you know. So we go from, okay, this is a anonymous website, to next steps of like, okay, how can we bring this to a workshop level? How can we educate parents? How can we educate leaders? And at the same time, showing support and encouraging survivors of sexual abuse, and making it a change from being that stigma to, look, we have a problem, and what are we going to do about it?
Right.
You know? So that's why we wanted to bring it on a more narrow audience and focus in the South Asian community particularly.
Absolutely. I definitely understand from that cultural perspective that so much of these issues get swept under the rug, that are not talked about because of, you know, issues like culture and stigma, and just maintaining a certain level of pride within the community. But that can be so detrimental at times. And, you know, this project is a great step in breaking down those barriers and giving these survivors a voice in the community. Absolutely. So that's amazing. So I want to ask you next, what kind of impact have you guys already had in the community? What have you guys already done?
Well, we have had the opportunity to be able to speak at some women's conferences in the South Asian community, which has been pretty awesome, because it's not just Houston, it's Dallas, you know, and just going out there and being able to share what we're about and our cause has brought a lot of awareness. And we've just had people coming up to us being like, you know, thank you for having this website. And all I can say is like, I can't, you know, this is not even like something that I should be thankful for. It's like something that's so needed for so long. And we've been to, we've had different opportunities to have interviews through this one particular one was Brown Girl magazine.
Yes.
So that was cool because it was focused on, again, South Asian community. And another thing is just within churches in the South Asian community, partnering with them and being like, look, we have this website, can you share it, you know, through social media, whatever platform you have, to spread the word, not just in Houston, but just like nationwide. That's like our hope. And it's cool because some of these churches have national conferences, so that's a great way to link up with them and connect. And just even the way that we launched our website was such a great help from two guys named Devin and Vishal. They reached out to us and they were just like, look, like we saw your blog, but you know, how can we help in terms of like the technological side?
Yes.
And we were like, please help us revamp the website.
Right.
And so like they were able to partner with us in that, you know, organizing an awesome website. So that was cool. And just like people like you know, coming up to us to interview us and just different projects. So that's been really great.
Very cool. Taking into consideration everything that you guys have done with the project, with the women's conferences and the interviews, what is your vision for the future of the project?
So we were thinking about, you know, right now we have the website. So how can we get this more out there into the communities? And one idea that we're hoping to launch and bring into fruition is the idea of workshops, you know, whether it be like in a community center or whether it be in a church, to gather parents, children, and just a whole bunch of people in the community so that we can educate them, you know, talking about the issue of sexual abuse and, you know, the actual dangers of it, what to look out for. So because the main thing is awareness, that's what we're really driving home in. And then another thing is finding resources in the form of counselors, therapists, social workers, to be able to connect survivors of sexual abuse via our website, being like, okay, you know, if you're from Houston, we have these counselors that you can connect with.
Right.
If you're in Dallas, wherever you're at, to be able to pinpoint those resources. So if you look on our website, under the How You Can Help tab and partner with us, there's a link for professionals, just a simple form to like fill out that information so we can connect with them in providing those resources to sexual abuse survivors.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug in all of the website information into the description box below so that anybody that's watching this interview can go ahead and have access to that and eat a quick link to find you guys and learn more about what you're doing and maybe even partner and find out how they can help and get involved as well. But Jenny, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today. I'm really glad that we got to do this. Up next, we have Ashley, your cousin, who is a licensed professional counselor intern, to get a different perspective on how abuse and, you know, really how victims and within the South Asian community have kind of been either pushed to the side and what we can do to help give them a voice and the effects of things like Project SHHH on the outcome of a survivor's future. I am sitting with Ashley Abraham right now, licensed professional counselor intern. She is also working very closely with Jenny on Project SHHH7214. So I really wanted to sit and talk with her and get her perspective as a counselor on what this project means for the community and for survivors of abuse. So Ashley, why don't you start by telling us what your professional background is and what you do?
I'm a licensed professional counselor intern, like you said. It's a lot of syllables, a lot of words for a pretty simple concept. And basically, I have the opportunity to see a lot of different people from a range of issues, like depression to marital problems. There's a lot of different things that I can see people with ADHD. So being able to sit one-on-one with people for about an hour and help them work through whatever problems that they have and create like a treatment plan for them. And I've had just the opportunity to see people really change in a very short amount of time. Clients who start off really in the worst places and then being able to see them slowly make progress in a way that I don't think they could have done if they didn't have a space to be safe and know I can be myself and I can bring my problems to someone who's not going to judge me. And that is where the power really lies. And so that's what my license is. The intern part is just because we want to make sure that whoever is counseling you is doing what's appropriate. So we have a supervisor for About 3,000 hours worth of time.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so really to make sure that whoever needs care gets the appropriate care.
Right. Okay. So, what has your experience been like working with Project SHHH?
Yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey. Jenny really was the one who came to me about this, totally shocked that such an issue was in our community. I have known about this for a while now. I had a lot of friends growing up who were abused when I was in middle school, especially. A lot of people came out and said that different things had happened. But Jenny's heart was so yearning to help people in the community. And with time, I think we were in high school when the idea came out. So it took some time, but it's been, especially from the mental health point of view, to know really how much of an impact something like this website can have on people, because there is no judgment. It's just a safe place, and there's so much power, like I said, in that kind of space.
Absolutely. Because so many of these stories have been coming out, for me, I've definitely noticed an increase in just how vocal people are about it within the past 5 years. And it makes me wonder, is there a higher incidence rate of abuse in the Indian community compared to just the general population? Or is it just that we're hearing more about it now?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. Already, sexual abuse is a topic people just don't talk about.
Right.
Even in the more Western cultures, it's still, there's a lot of shame, a lot of stigma around the topic. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the South Asian community, if the issue is even more prevalent. Just because it's kind of like bacteria. If you give it a place to grow, like that darkness, that secrecy, it will grow. And unfortunately, our community provides that place for perpetrators to have the safety to be able to continue harming children and not have the consequences. And so it may be that it is incredibly prevalent. We just don't know. And also, I think in the past, like you said, 5 years or so, it's become more open. And I think really it's places like Project SHHH, like so many different venues that provide these children, or now adults, the ability to say, I went through this, and the acceptance that they're now receiving, which I think is beautiful, because now they're able to say, this has happened to me, and not get that immediate rejection that I think has been there in the past, like this immediate rejection that has taken place before. Now there's this open armed, like, we are here for you response that is inviting people to be more open.
Absolutely. So what is it about a more traditional people group that causes issues like abuse to be swept under the rug instead of confronted head on?
Yeah. Traditional also is usually, it's very similar to the difference between like an individualized people group and a collectivistic people group. Even if you are, let's say, a part of a Catholic church in the West, there's still that collectivistic, like, you are not your own person. You are part of your family. You and your family are one. And so I think there is this fear, especially for survivors, to admit to what's happened, because it not only ends up being tagged along with your name, but also ends up being tagged along with their family. And so there's so much of this fear of, if I come forward, then my family is also going to have to go through whatever it is that, whatever consequences happen after I come out with this secret. So I think as people who are expecting others to come out with their story, there needs to be this understanding that to be able to come forward means that you're giving up so much. There is so much that you may give up, or at least consequences you may have to face, because our community is so just starting out to accept or really understand abuse. That's why I think traditional culture is so difficult, because we provide that space for the perpetrator to be okay. And really that needs to change in order for that to shift. We cannot be protecting the perpetrator and putting the victims aside. And I really think it's just because of that collectivistic, we are one, the one person doesn't really matter.
Right. So it's the mentality of the group over the individual that hurts the victim or the survivor and protects the perpetrator.
Yeah.
What kind of impact has that attitude that you just talked about, that collectivistic attitude, what type of impact has that had on survivors?
Yeah. I think it's really taught them to be silent, right? Like that what they say could harm their family, could harm their reputation, their children's reputation. There's so much of this extra baggage that already to be abused is it's hard to give words to that kind of pain. But to be told that your decisions, there's definitely a good side to collectivism. Our family, they beam with pride in our pride. Our happiness is their happiness, right? So there are definitely wonderful things about it. But the other side is there too, that when children do something that is going to, there's such a connection between emotion, such a connection between decision making, and it creates more baggage, more pain than is necessary. If we could tell children, we support you no matter what, or these survivors, that we support you no matter what, I want you to be able to be comfortable and say what's on your heart, that it's not going to cause us shame as a family, it's not going to cause us pain, to provide that open space. It's necessary before I think anyone in our community is going to be forthcoming with that kind of information.
We briefly talked about this, but what can be done to help survivors of abuse feel more comfortable coming out with their stories, especially when they have this type of a background or an upbringing?
Yeah. A big thing to do is to let them know that you as a friend, if you start from there, you as a friend are willing to give them that non-judgmental place, to say no matter what has happened in your life, I'm here for you. The next step I really think is to give them some way to talk to a counselor, a therapist. If you need to start with school counselors in your own colleges, in your high schools, elementary schools, whatever is needed, using those resources that are right there. My office is always open. It's called Chambers Counseling and Consulting. You can find me on Facebook. And so by contacting us here, we have services Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are definitely places like, United Way. There's so many different, if you go to psychologytoday.com, I think that's a great resource. Psychologytoday.com, you put in your filters, your information, and you can find a therapist that's going to be there to walk you through whatever you need. I think therapy is something people, especially in our community, as we've been talking about, are afraid to admit that they need.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everybody, can use this kind of resource, because it just gives you a place to say, I'm human, I'm going through some stuff, and we go see a dentist every 6 months. We make sure that we exercise and eat well, and this is just another part of being healthy.
Absolutely.
So I think that is really important to say. Mental health is important. We as a community focus so much on the outer. We focus on looks. We focus on what people see in the day-to-day. We don't focus on mental health at all, and it really is a big thing with abuse. And so providing any kind of resource possible to tell this person it's okay to seek help. It doesn't make you weak.
Right.
It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. And I think we need to emphasize that.
Okay. So let's dive deeper into that a little bit more. How do you, as a counselor, help someone that's been through abuse get through their healing process? What does that generally look like?
Yeah. It really is for each person, right? So every person comes in with their own, issues, baggage, whether it's trauma that happened to them really young or older. It's the space, and I always talk about that because I just think people never given the space to just talk about what's going on. But what we usually do is we allow you to go at your own pace. Never will I ask a client to say what happened to them until they're ready. I think we always tell people who are survivors that they need to talk about what's happened.
Right, yeah.
But if they don't feel ready, that's okay. You don't have to say anything. I'm here for you, because I think what's really important is to show survivors that you are not your trauma. You are not your past. What that person did to you does not make you who you are. We can sit in my office and talk about how hard your homework was yesterday.
Yeah.
We can talk about how difficult your parents are being, because you're not your trauma. And I think it's important for my clients to incorporate the fact that you are wonderful, beautiful in and of yourself, and I'm here to support you as you try and figure out every day, knowing what's happened to you, carrying what's happened to you, and still working through your normal everyday stuff. So it can be a long-term journey, it can be short-term. It's really whatever each person needs. So never feel, I hope anyone who is a survivor of abuse, never feel like you have to do it how it is on TV, or what your friend, how they got through it. It's however you need to do it. And if you need to go and just read the stories on Project SHHH, if you need to talk to your pastor or talk to your friend, whatever you need to do, make sure you do it no matter what.
Okay, that's an awesome answer. I think I feel like I've already learned so much from just sitting here and talking with you and talking to Jenny. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I appreciate it so much. And I'm going to have all of Ashley's information and all the links that she talked about in the description box below for anyone that needs it, or if you know someone that could use just even hearing about this, for you guys to share it with people in your friend circles and things like that. But that pretty much wraps up our interviews for today. I am really excited to finish wrapping up this project and getting it out there to you guys, because I really do believe in what Project SHHH is doing and what it's going to do for the community in the years to come. And I'm so excited for you guys, and I can't wait to see where you guys are going to take it. But if you guys have any comments, questions, please feel free to leave them below, or go ahead and send it to Jenny and Ashley directly. I'll leave their social media contacts down below. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, please share it. There are a lot of people out there that need to hear this message and need to know what this project is and what it can do for them or for someone they love. But guys, thank you again. See you next time.
Bye.